Let's go.
My name is Michael Dawe, and I'm with the Red Deer Museum and Art Gallery. We're doing a series of clips about some of the more interesting artifacts from the collections which the public might not normally get a chance to see. One example is this chair, which dates back probably 130 to 140 years ago. It was made by the famous early Alberta missionary, Reverend John McDougall. He and his father in the early 1870s cut the first cart trail from Fort Edmonton down to the mission west of Calgary at Morley, Alberta. And during one of his frequent trips between northern Alberta and southern Alberta, he had trouble crossing the Red Deer River. And while he waited a few days to be able to cross the river, he thought he would occupy himself, and he made this rocking chair. It's a little obscure what happened to the chair over the years, but ultimately it ended up in the hands of the Richards family, who settled in the Red Deer area, or between Red Deer and Penhold in the Horn Hill district in 1884. And it was the Richards family that donated this chair to the museum. It's not fancy, it's not ornate, but it does represent how people relied on themselves for making things even such as furniture. And it also is part of the important history when people were traveling. The pace of life was much slower back then. Today, if we went from Edmonton to Calgary and it took us more than 4 or 5 hours, we talk about what a terribly long trip it was. Back then, you were lucky if you could make the trip in 4 or 5 days, and it might take you a week to a week and a half to make it. And in cases such as this one, where the river was in flood, it might take you 2 or 3 weeks before you could travel between the area. So this represents a number of different things about Alberta's history and the importance of preserving these kind of artifacts for future generations.